Welcome to the Phil Steele Plus Tour for October the 5th, 2024. Up for you today, I have got 5 selections for you, 8 quick hitters, and an NFL selection. I'll have those all for you. Let's get started with the first one, and it's one of those patented revenge plays. You know that if you go to Phil Steele Plus and click on the main menu, if you're a Phil Steele Plus member, you get to the Phil Steele Plus menu. Right here is the schedule with power ratings forecasts. And when you go to the schedule with power ratings forecasts, you click here to download the amazing schedule, which gets you all the games for the week. And they're color-coded, green, red, every single week that's up there. And what I've done here for the tour is I've made it shorter for you. So if you click here, this is basically what it looks like. And it shows you all the best bet records for the 2 years, best bet records for this year combined, best bet records for last week. And when I started a new column last week, I'm adding up all the best bets. So example, here you've got a Florida State best bet. You've got a Clemson best bet, a Florida State best bet, so it's pretty much a wash. But like this one, Old Dominion, Old Dominion, Old Dominion, Old Dominion. We'll get into more of that later. But I ended up out here. So these out here, the green are ones with 2.5 or more. They're in green, and then you've got the yellow ones as well. So anyway, the revenge column, 9-3 this year so far. 16-6 if you include the yellow plays. But just the green ones are 9-3. And going back to 2 years, 57-23. And yes, Clemson's one of the patented revenge plays. And let me show you why. Let's go back to last year real quick. You look at last year's game. You know, Clemson did not trail for a single second in the entire game. Clemson ended up having a massive edge, 25-16 first downs, 429 to 311 yards. Remember, when you click on box score, you can get the complete recap. And once again, thanks to collegepressbox.com for allowing us to put these boxes up for each and every game. I go through the play-by-play of each and every game. But the key to this one was I'll show you just briefly up here at the top as opposed to going through each play of the game. But the fumble return for a touchdown was huge. Klubnik fumbled. They were up by 7, driving for the winning score, ended up losing. Anyway, if Clemson gets a lead, I don't think they let up this year. And this has been a dominant Clemson team. They delivered for the tour last week over Stanford, delivered for the tour as a revenge play over NC State. The offense is humming, and Florida State, well, we know about them. DJ Uiagalelei is going to be out for here. It's going to be Brock Glenn, who's 0 for 4 passing this year. We're taking Clemson minus the 14.5. It is a revenge play. You'll want to check out all those revenge plays. Just go to Phil Steele Plus and get them. And keep in mind, the last time we used them as a revenge play, they played NC State. And while the final score is 59-35, they led that thing 59-14. NC State actually put up 200 yards against the backups in the fourth quarter with 3 touchdowns. 59-14 was the lead. They got their legitimate revenge there, and they're only laying 14.5 here. So your first play, the revenge game of the week, 3-0 this year, by the way, for the revenge plays. So I've been pulling one off the schedule. When you're pulling plays that are 9-3 off the schedule, it's pretty easy to go 3-0, isn't it? We got the revenge game of the week. It is Clemson minus the 14.5 over Florida State. All right, now this one, well, before I get to it, a couple of quick notes for you. I put a blog up this week on philsteele.com about the battle with the computer. So I give you a complete reference of the battle. The battle is on. It's me versus the computer. So far this year, my Inside the Press Box best bets, another 4-1 week last week, 15-7 on the year. But as I talk about in the text, you're never got too big of a lead on the computer. Last year, the computer got red hot down the stretch, ended up nosing me out at the end. The computer is 27-15 the last 14 weeks. And so far this year, if you take the combined best bets for me and the computer, 37-21, 65%. If you want to just get this week's issue, go to philsteele.com, go to the store, go to the single issue, type in Battle 24. You save yourself $5. You get it for just $15. That's philsteele.com. Once again, if you go to the homepage to get to philsteele.com, I'm only going to show you this once. Go to the store right there. And when you go to the store, you have access to everything. Here is the Inside the Press Box single issue. Here's the season issue of college, which is now just $139, a real good deal. If Phil Steele Plus for the year is $99, I'll have a discount for you on that. But it's all available right here in the store. And if you want that FCS digital magazine, $25, 2 full pages on every FCS team. That's at the Phil Steele Plus store. Okay, let's get to our second game. You guys knew this one was coming. We used it last year. Last year it went 3-0 again. It is the Service Academy underplay. So Navy is the visitor. We're going to put them on the left. And Air Force is the home team. We're going to put them on the right. And there's a couple of good things here about Phil Steele is when you click on the team name here, that pops up everything. Look at all these unders. Navy and Air Force goes under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 unders, 4 overs, and 1 push. That's a good record, right? But this thing is, you look at the Navy versus, let's take a look at Navy versus Army, for example. How many unders have we had here? Oh, my goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 1 to the under. And then we'll take a look at Air Force and Army and click on that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 straight unders. Why? Well, the purpose of using the option is teams aren't able to prepare for the option on a short week. So if you're only playing the option on 1 week, the option has the advantage. These guys face the option every single day in practice. So they know option. It's option versus option. Throw away the points scored because Air Force knows how to defend the option. Navy knows how to defend the option. And this game actually reminds me of last year's Air Force Navy game, but on the flip side. Why do I say that? Because last year, if you look at Navy, they came into the game against Air Force really struggling on offense. And in the game against Navy, let's go to it, the final score was 17-6, Navy against Air Force. Navy actually scored a touchdown with 50 seconds left in the game on a 78-yard drive against when the game was out of reach. It was 17-0. Air Force playing a little bit of prevent defense, maybe a few backups in the game, and a final score 17-6 with a late touchdown. So you know this game goes under. A couple other notes on the series. Air Force's offense this year is averaging 243 yards per game. Last year, the offense was putting up 367 yards per game. So this is not your typical Air Force offense. You take a look at the individual players here. The rush numbers, look at the top rusher here, 54 yards, 71 yards, 50 yards. That's not typical for Air Force. You could actually go back and take a look at last year's rushing totals. You'll see a whole bunch of 100-yard efforts. See all these 100-yard games in here for their players? This year, they're not getting it. Their offense is struggling. If you're struggling and now you're taking on a team that knows how to defend the option, how is Air Force going to score? But on the flip side, Air Force always slows Navy down. Take a look here. Look at the defenses here. Defensive yards, they've allowed 124, 243, 68, 241 the last 4 years against Navy. So they know how to shut down the option. We're taking the play you knew was coming. It is the Service Academy. If you go back the last 6 years and play, or excuse me, the last 10 years, I should say, and just play the under in the Service Academy games, 26 wins going to the under, 3 to the over, and 1 push. It's a play I used it with 3-0 last year. We're going to go with under in the Navy and Air Force game. All right, I talked about the computer, and last 2 weeks the computer has said, hey, I want to use this play, and I haven't let it. 2 weeks ago is Indiana over Charlotte. Didn't let them use it, and guess what? It won easy. Last week again, did not let the computer use a play, and once again, it won comfortably. So a lot of folks getting on me saying, why don't you let the computer use these plays? I did limit it again this week, so let's get to our computer play. And we're going to take a look at the computer wanted to use Florida plus the points over UCF, and I did not allow it, so we'll see how it turns out this week. It's already 2-0 whenever the computer wanted to use a play. Last week, the computer wanted to use Alabama plus the points over Georgia, and you know how that one turned out. Well, this week it's saying Florida wins this game 34-29. Actually, I thought the computer was even a little heavier on it than that. I thought the computer had it Nope, 34.29 is what the computer had. Okay, so 34.29. Here's the complete write-up. This is what you get when you get inside the press box. Here's the complete write-up on the game. That's my write-up. Here's my computer's forecast on the game, including the points scored, yards rushing, yards passing on the game. This just takes you to the last 27 years matchups, which you get on philsteele.com anyway. And by the way, when you're inside the press box subscriber, you get Phil Steele Plus. And what I've got for you right here is one more special. I offered it last week. I'm going to offer it again this week. As mentioned, you see all the records. The records are great, 37 and 21. A 25% off special. Right now it's $139. You guys can get it for $104. And when you get College Press Box for the rest of the year, you get my selections, you get my computer selections, and you get Phil Steele Plus through the Super Bowl, a $99 value. All that for just $104.25. So basically, if you're going to get Phil Steele Plus for the year, just go ahead and get Inside the Press Box College. You get these write-ups on every single game. This week, there's 49 games written up. And you also get this discount. Just use the Tour VIP to get 25% off the Inside the Press Box. Once again, go to the store, pick College Press Box for the year, and if you choose the bundle, you get college and NFL. It's $179.25. That includes the postseason. So this whole package is 25% off right now. Use the code word Tour VIP. But my computer wanted to use this game. I said, hey, Florida is lost a couple of times. I'm not going to let you use it. My computer's mad about it. My computer's hoping to go to 3-0. And the computer wanted to use, but I wouldn't let it play this week, is Florida plus the points over UCF. There's your complete write-up on the game if you want to know why we like it. And the computer, of course, has got them winning 34-29. Florida, by the way, the underdog in the game there. So let's go now to our fourth game we're going to go over this week. And it is teams off back-to-back shutouts. Doesn't happen very often, right? Well, I went back and researched the history. And let's put this game's actually on Friday. We're going to put TCU on the right, and we are going to put Houston on the left. It's very rare for a team to have back-to-back shutouts. And the thing I want to point out is Houston could actually have 3 shutouts this year. You go back to this UNLV game, take a look here. Houston went 90 yards, 12 plays, probably against UNLV's backups, to score a touchdown with 1 minute left in the game, or else they get shut out. They avoided the shutout there. It could be 3 shutouts on the year. So the thought process was, how do teams do off back-to-back shutouts? And we're going to take a look at that. Click it up here. And this is how teams do off back-to-back shutouts. I went back since 2006, as you see here, shutout, how they do the next week, loss, shutout. I could go through all 15 or all 17 of them. There's actually 17 here because in 2 years, look at this. Rutgers in 2016, shutout, loss, shutout, loss. But teams off back-to-back shutouts since 2006 are 0-17 straight up. I highlighted them all in red for you. And the 4 covers happened when they were plus 24, plus 28.5, plus 35.5, and plus 41. Now, Houston's only getting 16.5 here. So that pretty much sums it up. I like TCU minus the points over Houston. Can TCU score? Well, look at this. 39 points per game, 466 yards per game. I think TCU is going to score. Can Houston score? Well, there's 3 games they could have been shut out in. So teams off back-to-back shutouts, we're going to use TCU minus 16.5 over Houston. All right. We haven't used a red-green game all year. Let's go ahead and use one this week. I love these red-green games, and it really highlights what Phil Steele is about. Phil Steele Plus is about. And once again, the Phil Steele Plus Tour Special, as always, I'll give you $10 off just for watching the tour. Regular price $99. You can get Phil Steele Plus for the final 20 weeks. Just type in the code word expert wins. Comes out to $445 per week, and you have access to all this information each and every week. But we're going to put Penn State on the right, and we're going to put UCLA on the left. Now, last week, the quick hitters got a loss on the UCLA-Oregon game, and I'm not sure if you watched it, but if you go through the box score here, total domination by Oregon in the first half. And at the end of the first half, let's go to the play-by-play. It's 28-3. They've completely dominated the game. I'll show you the yards in a minute. Completely dominated the game, and here we are. Oregon is driving. It's 3rd and goal at the UCLA 6. They're about to make it 35-3, and they're intercepted and returned 96 yards for a touchdown to make it 28-10. And then shockingly, in the second half, Oregon only had 4 possessions, and they actually punted, and they did score a touchdown here. And then on their last drive, they got to the UCLA 16-yard line and took a knee and somehow didn't cover that game. Half times are right here. Look at this halftime yardage. 302 to 54 for Oregon last week, and yet it was 28-10 thanks to the interception return. Should have been 35-3. If it was 35-3, they would have covered the game, total domination yardage-wise. But I bring this up. Look at UCLA, all this red. They should be able to run the ball, right? They can't. 57 yards per game rush. And the red shows you weak numbers, weak defense, weak offense, weak scores. The only team they beat was Hawaii, and they probably should have lost that game. They were down 10-0 at the half, outgained 178-94. Now let's look at Penn State. All green. Look at this rushing. 251 yards per game, 5.8. Rush defense, 72 yards, 2.3. And the green takes you right to it. You take a look at the green, that's good. Green is good, red is bad. It's a green-red game in the Penn State-Ohio State. But there's a couple other things. I showed you how they could have lost to Oregon last week. Here's something interesting. Let's take a look. We're going to go to the last 40 years. And now, keep in mind, what this has done, if it's bold, that means they won the game straight up. This W and L applies to whether they covered the game. So let's take a look at Penn State, how they do when they win but don't cover. So what we're looking for is a bold L. And here's a bold L. What Penn State do the next week? They beat Maryland 51-15. Here's a bold L. They did lose that game. So there is a loss there. But if you go through all of these, here's a bold L. They won the next game 24-0. Let's find another bold L over here. And what the bold L means, they won the game but did not cover. They won the next game 59-0. Here's a bold L. They won the next game and covered. Here's a bold L. They won the next game and covered. Here's a bold L. They covered the next game. Here's a bold L. They covered the next game. If you go back, and if you have Phil Steele Plus, take the time to go through it. But since 2014, 16-2-1 off a win and a non-cover. So you got to love that. It's right here on philsteele.com. You can look it up. So you've got two things going for you. You've got the fact that James Franklin, when he wins and doesn't cover, covers the next week. And you got the fact it's a red-green game. Your fifth and final selection this week, we're going to take Penn State minus 27.5 over UCLA. All right, let's get on to our quick hitters. I got 8 of them for you this week. And finally, the last 4 weeks is up and active. And I should have had Todd put it up. The last 4 weeks, when you take a look at that schedule with numbers, I didn't tell him to put this one up, but it is green over here for the average game grade. All these columns, these are all possible things. But the last 4 weeks is, let me find it out here. Here it is. The last 4 weeks AGG. This one is green this week for Bowling Green. Why is that? Well, let's take a look at it. We're going to put Bowling Green's the visitor, but really, does Akron have much of a home field edge? The answer is no. They don't do very well at home. What's their home record? Let's take a look. If you click on the last 10 years straight up in ATS records, now this stuff's in your magazine. Take a look at their home records, though. 2-3, 1-4, 1-5, 1-2, 0-6, 2-3. In the last 6 years, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins, 9, 11, 16, 20, 23 losses. How do they do as a home dog? They're 7-22. That's not very good. So Akron's not much of a home team. And if you look at the last 4 weeks AGG, the average game grade has no starting rating. So if Alabama put up these type of numbers against Ohio State, they'd have the same average game grade. Doesn't matter who it is. It takes into account the strength of the opponent and what you do in the game, not only score of the game, but yards in the game. So anyway, Akron is playing to an 82.1, but over the last 4 weeks, they're only playing to a 76.8. It just takes into account these 4 games. Now, Bowling Green's last 4 weeks AGG is the same as the season because they've only played 4 games. This will really get active. And last year, when it did get active, let me take a look at that schedule numbers. As you see, last year, the last 4 weeks AGG went 44-26 once it really got active. I didn't start using them naturally until like the 6th week of the season because let's face it, if you played 4 games, you don't have a last 4 weeks AGG. It comes out the same, and you'll see here a bunch of these are the exact same number. Wisconsin 17.5, Wisconsin 17.5, Coastal 4.3, Coastal 4.3. But there are some that start this week, and BG's one of them. And BG actually is playing to a 101.1 level versus a 76. Let's go ahead and even give Akron 2-point home edge. That's 78. So that's 23-point difference here. And Bowling Green's only laying 14.5. So we're going to take Bowling Green as a last 4 weeks AGG play. And I will have a last 4 weeks AGG play for you every week here. The schedule, if you go to Phil Steele Plus, I'll have like 7 last 4 weeks AGG plays for you. Just become a Phil Steele Plus member to get access to those. All right, now this one, if you remember at the start of the season, I put it out in week 0 just to give you a sample of what's up here. But we can finally use it this week. And it is the series domination play. And we're going to put Purdue on the left. We're going to put Wisconsin on the right. And once again, let's go just click right here. This tells you the series. Look at this. Wisconsin has won 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Once again, if it's first time you're taking the tour, if this number is green, you don't even have to look at the score. Green means they won the game straight up. Red means they lost the game straight up. Over here, green means they covered the game. Red means they did not cover. The only time Wisconsin did not cover was as a 24.5, 17, and 23-point favorite. They've covered all the others. They're only laying 13.5 points here. So it's not in the range where they don't cover. And even if you include all those big lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 3, 17 and 0 straight up. It's been series domination for Wisconsin. Over here gives you over-unders. Shows you the over's done pretty well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 3. This tells you how the home team is done. Once again, if the word win is there, that means the home team won the game straight up. If it's green, that means the home team covered. This gives you the average game grade. This gives you the stats on it all. The last 27 years you have there. So you have Wisconsin hosting Purdue. Something else I do want to point out. If you look at this Alabama game 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, Wisconsin was actually even with Bama yardage-wise. It was like 148, 151. Bama hit a big play before the half. Let's take a look when they scored. Bama in the second thing went 73 yards in 2 plays, scored with 19 seconds left in the half. Take away those 73 yards, and it's 151 to 148. So they played Bama even up in the first half. They played USC even up in the first half, led 21-10. They've actually just played Alabama and USC. So this is a pretty good Wisconsin team. Meanwhile, Purdue has, of course, struggled. Notre Dame, Oregon State, Nebraska, each of those games. And here, Nebraska missed 3 field goals in the first half. They were outgained 210 to 89. So your series domination play was to take Wisconsin minus 14 over Purdue. And by the way, here on the tour, I've had series domination plays. They are 7-3 the last 3 years whenever we put one out on the tour. I'll start having them for you as this season goes on. 7-3 over the last 3 years for series domination plays. Take Wisconsin over Purdue. All right, let's go YPG versus opponent average. I love this. And this is Louisiana against Southern Miss. So Louisiana is actually the visitor, and we're going to put them on the left, and we're going to take Southern Miss, and we're going to put them on the right. Now, this is something important on philsteele.com. This tells you how an opponent teams do. And if you look at Louisiana, they're actually averaging 52 yards above what their opponents allow. So example, and that doesn't include the FCS games. That's taken out of this total down here. It would be more if we included the FCS, but that's a gimme that you're going to do better than most FCS teams do against them. So anyway, take a look at the Tulane game. They had 134 yards above the average. So when they put up 421, you take away the 134, and that means that Tulane allows 287 yards per game against everybody but Louisiana. However, Louisiana put 421 yards on them, which was 134 above the average. So Louisiana's numbers are good, not great. But look at Southern Miss's numbers. Minus 91. They have 91 yards less than what their opponents allow. And defensively, they allow opponents 97 yards above their season average. They're towards the bottom. And if you go to the Phil Steele Plus, let's go there real quick. Phil Steele Plus. and you click on FBS information. We got all this up for you. Strength of schedule, pass efficiency defense. Who's the top pass efficiency defense? Alabama, followed by Utah and Notre Dame. This takes into account the opponent, takes into account the touchdown, interception, the grade, the percentage. That's up there if you want to know how a team. Who's the worst pass defense? I got to know that. Ball State, middle, Kent State, Wake Forest, App State. We'll be talking about them in a little bit. Mississippi State, Eastern Michigan. So that's good. That's at your fingertips each and every week. Unlike the NCAA, this takes into account the strength of schedule. So in other words, if you take on 3 option teams and you're doing really good pass defense, this downgrades that because they're not passing teams. If you take on 3 teams that are among the best pass leaders and you give up a lot of yards, this takes that into account. But let's go to offense and defense, YPG versus opponent average. And you go to the very bottom here, Southern Miss. They're allowing 251 yards per game above what their opponents allow. Take a quick drink of water there. We're talking a lot here. So they're at the very bottom. Is these updated through, updated through 9:30. And you take a look at Louisiana, they're actually up here in the middle of the pack. But Southern Miss is right at the bottom, allowing opponents. And let's see who's number 1. Ohio State, Texas, Miami. How about Washington? Look at this. Their defense is holding opponents to 190 yards, 0.7 below their opponent's average. That's number 2 in the country. Kentucky's number 1, holding opponents to 250 yards per game below their average. That's all very interesting right there. So do use that when you're handicapping, and that's what we're going to use here. This is yards per game versus opponent average. And keep in mind one more thing. This game here against Kentucky, they got beat 31-0. It could have been worse. This game was ended in the third period, early in the third period. So the stats that were put up in that game, Kentucky, for example, put up 317 yards. They did that in a little more than one half, 248 at the half. So that's misleading here, the Kentucky game as at 31-0, because they could have lost a lot worse. That game was ended, I'll show you here in the box. Just click down to the bottom. And it was ended right here. 12:54. Looks like about 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. That game was ended. So our play here for the schedule, or for the YPG versus opponent average play, is take Louisiana minus 14 over Southern Miss. That's Louisiana minus 14 over Southern Miss. All right, your schedule versus the spread play. Take a look here. I pointed it out already. It's going to be Old Dominion. They come up as a 2.5 best bet. ODU's got the schedule strength, massive schedule strength. Let's see why that is. We're going to put ODU, they're in the Sun Belt, Old Dominion, and they are taking on Coastal Carolina. Old Dominion is taking on South Carolina, East Carolina, Virginia Tech, and a very good Bowling Green team. So they've taken on 4 tough opponents. All these teams are going to be bowl teams at the end of the year. Coastal Carolina is taking on Jacksonville State, William and Mary, Temple, and Virginia. So they've taken on a very light schedule. And once again, when you go here, if you go to strength of schedule, we're going to point out that Old Dominion is number 4, strength of schedule. And where's Coastal Carolina? Coastal Carolina is here, 107. So that's 103 difference. They've taken on a vastly tougher schedule. So yes, they come in 1-3. They come in 3-1. But put ODU against this schedule, they're probably 3-1. Put Coastal Carolina in this schedule, who knows? They could be 0-4. So it's going to be a strength of schedule play here this week, and it is going to be to take Old Dominion, and they are plus the 5.5 against Coastal Carolina. I also want to point out something else here, which is really interesting, that doubles the play. Use these last 10 years straight up in ATS records. They're up here, and these are things that are not, the ones I'm about to show you are not in your magazine. And I'm talking about conference away dog. Let's take a look at how does Old Dominion do as a conference away dog. How about 4-0, 3-1, 2-1? They are 9-2 as a conference away dog. We got ourselves a really good conference away dog here. How does Coastal do as a home favorite? 0-1, 0-3, 1-3? Over the last 3 years, they're 1-7 when favored against conference teams at home. And it's a new thing to the schedule I do want to point out to you is over here. This is the technical angle. So here what I pointed out is ODU has two angles going for them. They are a great away dog, and Coastal Carolina is a poor home favorite, and that makes it an angle. In fact, I'm going to bump that up to a green, which is going to make this a 3, and you'll see that when you're using a tour. The next one shows you, in case I forget to get to it, Sumrall is 13-1 ATS on the road. This one says UNLV 2, home and away. That means UNLV's got a good home record, and their opponent, Syracuse, has a poor away record. That shows you what the technical angles are about. So Wisconsin is a 1 play. Why is it a 1 play? The series. Once again, go back and look at the series. That's how to use the technical angle column, which is brand new this week. We're starting to use the last 4 weeks column, and this, of course, is brand new where we add up the best bets. So this schedule thing really excites me, and I put a lot of work into it each and every week, and it's doing really well. What's the record for those schedule plays? 16-10 on the year on the schedule plays. They had a 5-5 week last week, but I look for them to have a really good year. And if you use overall, the green and the yellow, 34-23 on the year. All right, let's get to our next play, and it is another strength of schedule play. Or no, it's out of character play. Out of character play. What do we mean by this? And we're going to put USC on the left, and we are going to put Minnesota on the right. So USC is on the left, Minnesota's on the right. Now, if you take a look at Minnesota through the years under P.J. Fleck, look at all this green under the rushing numbers. Look at all the green under the rushing numbers. They are a team that runs the football. That is their character. Well, guess what? This year, they're not running the football. Look how they've done in the 3 Power 5 games. 78 yards, 79 yards, 38 yards rushing. Look at the individual player stats. This year, in the Power 5 games, 64 is your top rusher, 73 is your top rusher. Last week, 36. Darius Taylor, 13 carries, 36 yards. The week before that, 10 for 34. The only game he topped 100 was Nevada, and Nevada's got a weak team this year. So this is a Minnesota team that's not playing to its character. I also want to point out, last week, we had Michigan as my only inside the press box loss. Inside the press box went 4-1. Winners were North Texas over Tulsa, UNLV over Fresno, Kansas State over Oklahoma State, and this Michigan game ended up losing. So what we have here is there was 24-3 at one point, right here, 24-3. Finished up 27-24. Minnesota got some late scores to get the win there. Now you take a look at USC, and USC is a team that is playing well this year. Their only losses to Michigan, but in that Michigan game, they could easily have won. In fact, they led Michigan late in the game. The key play there against Michigan, USC led 24-20, and then Michigan got that one long run in the fourth quarter that set up their game-winning touchdown. And that really was the key to the game. I think had Michigan not got this one long run for this 63-yard run by Mullins, they probably wouldn't even got in scoring position, and USC would have won. So in mutual opponents, I like the way USC played Michigan a lot more than the way Minnesota played Michigan, even though the final score was the same. But Minnesota's out of character. They like to run the ball. They're not able to run the ball. USC does have an improved defense this year. Look at this number. USC is holding opponents to 106 yards below their season average, and offensively are gaining 120 yards above opponents' season average. So I like those two numbers. We're going to use USC, and they are minus 8.5 over Minnesota in that game. All right, let's get to our next game, and this one is going to be another strength of schedule play, but it's also a matchup play, and I'll bring that up to you right now. It is Tulane is going to take on the road. They are taking on UAB this week. So let's put Tulane on the left, and let's put UAB on the right for this one. And what we've got here is, first of all, a strength of schedule play. So let's go back here, strength of schedule. Let's find Tulane, and, well, I'll show you here. We can go look it up, but Tulane is 77. It's a tougher schedule than UAB. So UAB's got to be down here. UAB's 114. Tulane's up here at 35. So you have a strength of schedule best bet. UAB does have it for the last time here, but Sumrall is actually 13-1 ATS on the road. Look in your magazine, add it up this year. Tulane covered at Oklahoma, and they covered at Louisiana. Look at the schedule they played, though. They played Kansas State, Oklahoma, Louisiana, South Florida. And who's UAB played this year? They played Alcorn State, ULM. They did play Navy, and they played Arkansas as their toughest opponent. So strength of schedule play Tulane, but I like the matchup here. And what matchup? Look at this red. And we got another red-green game here. These guys allow, and it's only showing 205 because they held Alcorn State to 117 yards. But if you take a look at just these three opponents, the three FBS opponents, giving up 235 yards, 234 yards per game, 5.5 yards per carry. And what does Tulane like to do? They like to run the ball. I just watched the Tulane USF game. Tulane just dominated that game. Look at that half, 317 to 148, and it was worse than that. USF got actually a late score before the half. Right here, USF went 75 yards in 6 plays to score with 16 seconds left in the half. So prior to that, it was 317 to 70, and they did it with a churning run game. And then Mensa, their quarterback, is hitting 64% with a 9-2 ratio. Teams are having to stack the box to try to stop the run. That's leaving Mensa some wide open receivers. Look at this. Williams is averaging 18.5. He's a USC transfer. Dante Fleming, 18.3. Brown, 14.7. So this is an explosive Tulane that matches up well against a poor run defense. They've already played the tougher schedule. We're going to take Tulane minus the points over UAB. All right, how about this one? This one just popped up last night. It's called a rivalry letdown game. And we're going to put here Georgia Tech on the right, and we're going to put Duke on the left. And Duke just had a major rivalry win, and it's a game they trailed. They were down 17-0, then they were down 20-0. A miracle comeback win. They won by 1. They were laying 2.5 in that game. When you take a look at Duke, let's go ahead and take a look how many times they beat North Carolina. They beat North Carolina in 2018, 2017, 2016, and 2013. So 13, 16, 17, 18. All right, so now let's go to our logs, our 40-year logs, and do our research. So in 2013, they beat North Carolina. The next week, they lost to Florida State 45-7. In 2016, they beat North Carolina. The next week, they lost to Pitt 56-14. In 2017, they beat North Carolina. The next week, they lost to Miami of Florida 31-16. Remember, these here are half times. This gives you the over-under for the game. If this is bold, that means they won the game. If this is W or L, that means they covered the game. And this is your final score over here. Finally, in 2018, Duke beat North Carolina. They lost to Clemson 35-6. The last 4 times Duke has beaten North Carolina, they are 0-4 ATS and losing by an average of 33.5 points per game. And Georgia Tech, fresh off a bye. Great situation matchup here. And let's keep in mind, Duke trailed that game 20-0 last week. They were outgained 220-97 at the half. Their 5-0 record, I think, is a little fake right now. They played a soft schedule. They're 5-0, but I like Georgia Tech minus the points over Duke this week. And how about a Friday night special for you? This one popped up, and I believe we put it here on the schedule. Let me see if we did. UNLV is a schedule play. Look at the plus-minus power ratings. Got UNLV by 10.5. Current AGG, UNLV by 14.5. UNLV's got that home and away thing going for them here. And my computer actually loves UNLV. It's got them winning this thing 37-21. That's another game my computer wanted to use. I wouldn't let it. And it's got UNLV 37-21. I don't have the graphic for you to show you how it likes it, but all those things are in the favor. You look at the fact that Syracuse is 14-37 straight up on the road. Barry Odom is 14-4 ATS as a head coach at UNLV. This lines it all up for you. All you have to do is look at the schedule. You get all this. So the final one, your 8th quick hitter, is to take UNLV over Syracuse. So got all that. I do have an NFL play for you guys. And let's get to that NFL play for this week. And we're going to go to the NFL team pages. I haven't had an NFL play for you. By the way, if you want to get the records, the tour records, let's update them. The selections went 3-3 last week. They're now 41-26 over the last 13 weeks of the regular season, 73-51 over the last 24 weeks, given away free. Quick hitters hit their guarantee, went 3-2 last week. Now 135 and 109 the last 3 years. The NFL plays didn't have any. They're 5-3-1 over the last 11 weeks. I did have a Twitter halftime play. Tough loss last week. I want to show you that real quick. We had Clemson. I put that up on Twitter. Let's go to Clemson. Clemson leads that thing 17-0, so they've got the cover. And Stanford gets a touchdown on 3rd and 9 with 39 seconds left in the half, a 19-yard TD pass. And we did not get the win there. So 1-1. And the FCS plays that Chris been putting out, how about 7-1? Another 2-1 Saturday. 2 blowout wins and a close loss. 7-1 on the year. Make sure you check that out right now. Hit subscribe, and that way you will be notified when the next YouTube video goes up, when those FCS plays go up. It's 7-1 on the year so far. Make sure you check those out. But let's go to the NFL, and these NFL team pages are up to date as well. Go to the NFL, and if we click here, we can go back to the main page for Phil Steele Plus and click on the NFL information. These are updated. You can get the strength of wins, pain of losses. The Minnesota Vikings have beaten teams. Yeah, let's go to the bottom here. The Minnesota Vikings have beaten teams that have won 8 games this year. So a strength of the wins, you get credit for any team you beat, all the wins they have. Losses, you get credit for any loss of a team you lose to. So the Vikings are undefeated. Kansas City, Houston is undefeated in this column because teams that, if they lost a game, their opponent hasn't lost yet this year. So do keep that in mind. So anyway, strength of wins, pain of losses. We see Denver comes in at 5-2, and Vegas comes in at 3-5. That's a nice thing to check each week. The main thing to look in this Vegas and Denver game, which we're going to look at under NFL information. By the way, something I didn't point out here. I'll click back to that in a second. Something I did not point out here on this Phil Steele Plus. I think I'm on the wrong column there. There we go. Is the logs, and these are updated. College ATS logs. You can go there, and it's updated with the wins and losses versus the spread. And here's the scores of the game, lines of the game, total of every single game. You want FCS? Here they are. They're all updated. They've got your scores of the game, lines of the game, and totals of the game, all FCS games, and NFL. Scores of the game, lines of the game. So go to the tour, go to your Phil Steele Plus menu, and click on logs, and you have the logs for each and every game. Okay, we're back to the NFL here. We're taking a look at Denver is at home, so we're going to put them on the right, and Vegas is on the left. We're going to put them on the left. Now, the one thing I want to point out here is look at Denver. They are actually holding opponents to 98 yards below their season average on defense. That's number 1 in the NFL. The Raiders, meanwhile, are allowing opponents 49 yards above their season average. And if we go to this and take a look at NFL information and go to the offensive defensive YPG, you see Denver right now is number 5 in the NFL as far as opponent averages. They're 73 yards above opponent averages. Vegas is at the very bottom, 81.9. And look at the teams that Denver has played. They have played, and if we go back to that opponent average for a minute, oops, I don't know what that came up with. Go back to opponent average here. They have played Seattle, which is at the top. They have played Pittsburgh, which is one of the best teams in the NFL. They have played Tampa Bay, which is up here. And they also played the New York Jets. And one of the 2 Jets losses came to Denver. So that's a pretty doggone good schedule. Meanwhile, the Raiders have played the Chargers, which are down here. They have played Baltimore, which is a good team. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. But they also played Carolina, which is down here, and they played Cleveland. So a much tougher schedule, and Denver's doing well with the YPG versus. So you got a lot of things going for you here. Plus, you look at the AGG, and the AGGs are accurate. They are up. It's the first time since we put the AGGs up. I redefined the formula this year. You can use these AGGs now. And it's got Denver playing at an 86.1 level. The Raiders playing at 81.5. So right now, that would say Denver by 4.6. Add in the home field edge, at least 3 points. And this is altitude as well. You're looking at Denver by 7.6, and they're laying less than a field goal. They're laying 2.5 here. We're going to take an actual play here on Denver, minus 2.5 over the Raiders. So I believe that sums up everything I wanted to show you on the tour for this week. Got an NFL play, 8 quick hitters, 5 selections. Do check out Phil Steele Plus and use that before you're wagering this weekend. Check out that schedule. I'll have it completely updated for you tomorrow morning with all the best bets from the schedule. And I'd like to take this time to thank you for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour for the first week of October.